Should all school lunches be vegan? Do give us a call with your thoughts. 0207 862 2222 is the same number for all of our debates. Millionaire green entrepreneur Dale Vince is calling on the government to scrap the law which says that all schools in England must serve meat and dairy in their meals. He says that vegan meals are healthier and would be better for the environment. We are going to speak to Dale Vince in just a moment, but first, Albie, do you think this would be a good idea?
No, I don't think it would be a good idea. I was surprised to hear that there is actually a law which says that schools have to serve children dairy and meat. I don't know if there needs to be a law in place telling schools what to serve kids as long as it's healthy and safe. I don't think that's something which the law should stipulate. Equally, I don't think telling schools that they should only serve vegan food to children is something we should be looking to do either. I think schools should be left to their own devices to make decisions about what's best for the students at that school, rather than people like Dale or us telling schools what to do with their students.
But there are current rules to say that there has to be a vegan meal available, so why shouldn't there have to be a meat meal available?
I just think schools are best placed to decide what they're going to serve their children. And I think there's got to be food which is available to everyone. So if there is a vegan at that school, or there are vegan children at that school, of course there's got to be an option for them. Otherwise they would go hungry at lunchtime.
Gemma, what's your thoughts on this? Just gut instinct.
Gut instinct, it could be a lot cheaper because those kinds of foods, the vegetables and so on. And I think if it's processed meat being served, like very salty, like, do you remember the turkey Twizzler thing?
You sound like a Tory.
No, do you remember the turkey Twizzler thing?
I do.
That Jamie
They
got
were
rid
nice,
of. Oh, they were pretty gross, that's subjective. But at the same time, I can hear the arguments of like, but my kid might not eat that. I understand that like schools are probably making fairly considered choices. Dale will probably tell us, do kids need certain amino acids from certain animal proteins while they're growing? I don't know, but I'm very open to it.
Well, there's certainly things that a bad vegan diet and nutrients that a bad vegan diet would lose out on, but hopefully the schools would be able to provide a better vegan diet. I think we can now speak to Dale. Oh, we'll speak to him in just a moment. We're trying to get hold of him. Is there any worry though, Gemma, that schools would just use the processed vegan meals?
Well, that's
because
the
when you
problem.
see the meals that we're already getting chicken nuggets and all of these sorts of things, Jamie Oliver has spent decades complaining about. Can we trust schools to provide that fully nutritious vegan meal?
I have seen in my lifetime school meals improve. When I was at school, you got a lump of really horrible like powdered mash and then a piece of Spam.
Yeah.
Which was horrible.
Very familiar,
I'm
yes.
old, but it was like...
Well, a bit of gravy drizzled over it.
Yeah, it wasn't very nice. And then the nicest thing was you've got a big bit of sponge and with custard. You'd be like, oh, yeah, you eat that. Lovely.
But you say that's horrible, and that was horrible because
Spam
it was
and mash.
ultra-processed.
Yeah.
And a lot of vegan food is this ultra-processed food. So it's weird. We've kind of moved from ultra-processed non-vegan food to kind of non-ultra-processed
I've seen
food,
schools
and now
trying
going
much
back
harder.
to vegan.
If you give a kid a baked potato, they're pretty happy. And then if you go cheese or beans, they're pretty happy. And I would say, great, happy for my kid to have a baked potato, cheese and beans at lunch, which is vegetarian, not vegan, take the cheese out. But you know what I mean? There are ways of doing it, cheap but tasty. If they were doing a massive like aubergine bake, I'm Italian, so my kids would like that. I'm sure there's lots of people going, my kids wouldn't eat that. But that could be delicious and nutritious and lovely. In Italy, they make big, lovely pastas. Oh, they smell so nice. They make the sugo for ages. Yeah, they would be vegan, wouldn't they? Wheat pasta, nice tomato sauce.
Parmesan.
Oh, yeah, no parmesan.
But hold on, you've both... Well, you can get vegan parmesans now, but then going back, it's processed, but then so is cheese. Processed, it's processed milk, essentially. You mentioned twice there, but you'll get lots of parents saying, oh, my child won't eat that. I do wonder whether that's where we're going wrong, is that we're allowing parents to dictate it. I would love to hear from you, particularly if you are a parent. How would you feel if your school went completely vegan? Maybe it's happened. 0207 862 2222. The other argument for this is the percentage of children that are becoming vegan or are vegan is going up and up and up. And so this is just a far more inclusive way of not making those children feel different. It's just everyone gets a vegan meal, everyone can eat it.
I understand that. I do. But this is why I think schools should be left to make up their own minds about what they serve their children. I look at what Catherine Birbalsingh has done with the Michaela School in North West London. She actually serves vegetarian food to all of the school children because they're from multicultural backgrounds, so they can all eat the same thing at the same time. Now, I don't think that needs to be dictated by the state. I think schools should be left on their own to make up their own decisions about what's best for their kids.
Yeah, and that sounds great. I'd fully support that. I have no problem with my kids not eating meat in the day. They'll be fine. If you want to give them meat, you can give them it when they get home. And I think the most important thing is it's got to be nutritious because, sadly, for some kids, that is the best meal they're going to get all day.
Which is another argument maybe against it, because if that is the best meal and the only meal they're going to get in a day, maybe they do need some sort of meat protein, if that's what you believe. We're going to take a break now, but stay with us because after the break we're going to be taking your calls on this. We'll also be speaking to Dale Vince. Let's now speak to Dale Vince, who is the man behind the campaign. And Dale, just to be clear, you want the compulsory nature of the law that says you must have meat and dairy in your lunch meals. You want to get rid of that. Tell us why.
Yeah, it's that's essentially right. I'm arguing for a freedom for schools to choose rather than some kind of dictation of a vegan diet. So it's been turned into other things by the Daily Mail and others, but that's not what it is. I think that forcing schools to serve meat and dairy is wrong. Schools should be free to choose. Parents and kids should be free to choose. And also, we know that they're unhealthy products, and so it's wrong from a health point of view, public health point of view. Life and science has moved on since this law was made.
Isn't this though? I mean, I know you are a big donor to the Labour Party. I think you've donated £5 million, and changing this law is going to benefit you financially. Does that not sort of look a little? I don't want to say fishy, but does that not look a little strange?
I'm surprised you say that, and I think I'm surprised that you think that this. I don't see a financial benefit for me. I'm certainly not doing it for that reason. I just think that schools should be free to serve the food that they choose. Animal products are unhealthy. We shouldn't be forcing them on our children. If the parents choose it, if the schools choose it, that's a different thing. But this is not about financial gain for me. Just about everything I do. The arguments are made for green energy, the green economy, all of that kind of stuff. This is for the benefit of the nation. And right now, I think, school kids aren't being given the best option that they could have. I also run something called the Ministry of Eco-Education, which has created a school curricula themed on sustainability. That's in 1 in 4 primary schools right now. That's entirely free. There's no money involved. There's no money motivation in what I'm doing.
Okay, let's go to a caller. Stay with us though, and we'll speak to you some more. Sandra from Shropshire, what do you think about Dale's idea here that we have more vegan meals in schools?
Well, like I said to the person that rang me, I'm a qualified chef and I used to work in a school in Wolverhampton. Now, most of these children were deprived and the only meal that they had that day was a good school meal. Mm-hmm. And I mean by good, we used to have like sausage and mash, not powdered mash, it was proper mash.
Nothing wrong with occasional smash though.
We used to have fresh fruit. Some kids have never seen fruit. Mm.
Well, that's great. Give them more vegan meals. They get more fresh vegetables and more fresh fruit, which we constantly hear in this show is far too expensive for people to buy.
Yeah, but the thing is as well, are the Labour government going to up the budget for the schools because they only have a certain amount to spend on meals?
Okay, so you think we need to focus on the quality rather than what's actually in the meals. But a lot of people watching this, Dale, will criticise vegan diets in general and say that they can be incredibly deficient in certain vitamins and things that children will need for growth and development. And I suppose a lot of vegan food as well can look quite processed in the shops, vegan sausages and the like. What would you say to that argument?
I'd say there are a lot of myths around plant-based eating or vegan diet, whatever it is that you choose to call it. And they've been around for a very long time. There is nothing deficient in a diet based on plants. We basically feed plants to animals so that we can eat the animals ourselves. And the animals do not make anything. They don't make protein. They don't make vitamins. They get them from the plants that we feed them. So when we feed ourselves plants, we simply cut out the middleman. There's nothing deficient in a vegan diet. There are ultra high processed vegan foods. Recently, they've become quite common in supermarkets, but I'm not talking about that kind of food for schools, for school kids. I'm talking about just good, honest food that's not meat and dairy. There's an old myth around our society that meat and dairy are good for us, and they're not. We know that they're not.
Okay, you're talking about dals and curries and things. Sandra, thank you very much. Joan from Devon, what's your view on this? Would you be happy to see maybe all school meals be vegan?
No, I don't agree with that. I am a vegetarian, and I've been a vegetarian my entire life. And I don't agree with telling children what they can and can't eat. From the age of 2, they tried to make me eat meat, and I wouldn't. And school meals were dreadful for me. They were a nightmare because they made me go back after school had finished and sit in front of the cold food for up to an hour trying to make me eat meat.
Joan, I mean, that sounds like a punishment. That sounds incredibly unfair. Nobody's talking about that. We're just talking about serving a variety of meals that don't have milk or meat in them. So they're just taking things out.
I don't think there should be a law against serving these different foods. All foods should be served.
Okay. Well, I suppose that is kind of what they're doing. If we took away the compulsory element to it, that would open up the choice. Just quickly before you go, Dale, as a donor to the Labour Party, I'm just wondering how you feel about MPs accepting gifts. I know this is not what we're talking about, but I'm just interested in what your reaction is to that and whether you think that they should continue to be allowed to do that or whether they should be banned.
I think there's been a lot of fuss in the media, a lot of focus on some relatively small gifts and sums of money. I say relative, and I mean relative the last 14 years of Conservative governments. I think basically we have to accept in our country politics is funded by donations. And if we don't like that, we should change that and make it publicly funded. But having said that, some donations are made with the intent to get something back and some are not. The gift of clothes to Keir Starmer was freely given for the want of nothing. The man that gave them wants nothing in this life, in this world. He just wanted to smarten Keir up for the election campaign. So we've got to distinguish. I mean, people's motivation is important. There's a cynicism around donations. And I say, well, if we think donations can't be done properly, then we should change our political funding.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much for all your calls on this. But a huge thank you to Dale Vince for joining us on that discussion.